Now, some aggrieved leaders of the governing All Progressives Congress in northern Nigeria, led by the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, have teamed up with some of their counterparts in the PDP and other concerned northerners to adopt the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, as their preferred presidential candidate for the 2023 general elections, jettisoning APC's presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, the group, under the platform of the Northern Leaders Consultative Forum, comprising Christians and Muslims, on Friday adopted the PDP's candidate in a voice vote after the report of its technical committee was presented to its members at a public forum in Abuja. They reeled out certain criteria used to rate the top 4 presidential candidates, with Atiku scoring 15 points, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso of NNPP scoring 10 points, APC's Bola Tinubu 9 points, and Peter Obi of the Labour Party scoring 9 points. They argued that the Muslim ticket of the APC is divisive and not inclusive. Where does this leave the APC, NNPP, LP, and their chances in the 19 northern states? Should Tinubu, Kwankwaso, and Peter Obi be worried about this endorsement of Atiku? Well, let's listen to them. All right, sorry about that glitch. Now, joining us to take a critical look at all of this is Honorable Hon Kumalia, former minority leader of the House of Representatives. He's a member of the Northern Leaders Consultative Forum, and of course, he will help us to understand the issues. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, just take us through this. It's been confusing, first of all, at some points. Some people say some of you leaders who took this decision are aggrieved in one way or the other against the governing APC and how it's played out its politics. Some others have said that, majority of you are former PDP members who left to the APC, and some of you are back to the PDP. Some are still in the APC. And we also hear that some are just actually concerned northern leaders who feel that Atiku represents the best, according to what you have said, that the country can offer. Just take us through the decision-making process of this group.
Okay, thank you, Samna, and thank you for having me this evening. First of all, I'd like to say that as you are aware, and of course as Nigerians are aware, this whole thing about adopting Atiku as a consensus candidate for the purpose of this matter we are talking about arose as a result of the Muslim ticket of the APC, that is Bola Ahmed Tinubu picking a Muslim as his running mate, and that brought about a huge backlash, especially among the Christian community in the whole of the country, but particularly in northern Nigeria. And top leaders of the APC, like Yakubu Dogara and a host of others, expressed, and of course the Christian Association of Nigeria, and top Christian leaders and clerics voiced their disapproval of this action that was seen by them as very distasteful, as really ignoring the sensitivities and sensibilities of the Christendom, as it were, Nigerian Christians. And therefore, they openly expressed their displeasure, and a process of consultation and engagement started within the fold of the partisan members. That means those APC leaders on the one hand, in consultation with the non-partisan followership, who are not carry members of any political party, and so on. And in the process, at one of their summits of the Christian APC leaders, for me, the speaker, former Speaker Yakubu Dogara, at that summit made a speech, which I read. And one thing that caught my attention in that speech was Article 17. And in that article, he said, they approve of this Muslim ticket, that it's a meeting of Christians, but that they will go out and seek out their Muslim brothers and sisters and dialogue with them with a view to coming together and identifying a pan-Nigerian platform that seeks to satisfy, that is inclusive, that brings about unity, that is not divisive, as it were, and come together, seek and adopt a platform together. So it's not as if this thing has happened and Christians are not happy and therefore the Christians have gone their way and they want to do what they want to do. No. So that particular point caught my attention. And I felt this was really a leader speaking, because it is about the justice of the case. So
it wasn't born out of the grievances of Dogara himself?
No, it's not.
Based on your own calculation?
No, of course it's not, because
there are talks by even Tinubu's political camp that Dogara had been, shopping to be the vice presidential candidate of the APC, and at some point Tinubu had positioned him, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So Dogara felt aggrieved, just like Babachi Lawal also, who had been positioning himself, felt aggrieved that Tinubu had gone ahead to take someone who's coincidentally from your state and a Muslim as his running mate.
Well, for me, Dogara is eminently qualified and can legitimately aspire to want to be vice presidential candidate. He's a Nigerian. He's a bona fide, northerner. He's well, exposed, highly experienced, lawyer, technocrat, a foremost parliamentarian, a former Speaker of the House of Representatives. So in terms of wanting to aspire or wanting to be, he has every right. Not that he has told me that he wanted to be, but he has a right. So for starters, let's clear that.
Yeah, the rights have always been there, but I mean, for Tinubu's camp, they say people like him can't deliver the votes. That's the thinking.
Yeah. You see, the question of who can deliver the vote, whether you're on the top of the ticket or you're supporting the ticket and so on, it's very subjective. After all, the entire ticket itself, after the elections, you realize that it's only one party that emerges. So why does that leave that kind of analysis? Be that as it may, you see, it's not about personal grievances. If it is about personal grievances, you will not see the number of people, and this feeling was from different constituencies. Like I said earlier, there are those that are partisan politicians like Dogara and so on. There is the Christian Association of Nigeria who has spoken publicly. There are others, leaders in their own rights,
including some Muslims like you who are leaders.
Some Muslims, because it's about fairness. For me, this is a country of over 200 million people, and as a Muslim, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in one of the hadith, it's reported that love for thy neighbor what you love for yourself. And I think it's a version of that even exists within the Christian faith. You understand what I'm saying? If, for instance, a Christian ticket was foisted by any of the political parties, the question, would it be fair?
Especially the ruling party.
The ruling party or any other party, for instance, but especially the ruling party. Would it be fair to, let's say, maybe 100 million Muslims? Just like it is not fair to about 100 million Christians, just for them to have a sense of belonging. It's not that these people were electing them to go and perform some clergy, responsibilities and so on and so forth. But it's just a feeling of a sense of belonging. And there's a history to it. Let's start from the First Republic. In the First Republic, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was the Prime Minister. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa is a Muslim from the north. Nnamdi Azikiwe is a Christian from the south, was the president. Come to the Second Republic. Shagari was the president. What's his name? Alex Ekweme was the vice president. Fast forward, forget about all the things that the military did. Come to the Third Republic or the Fourth Republic. as it were.
Are you jumping the aborted Third Republic? I mean, because there wasn't
a presidential
putting his foundation on that aborted Third Republic, where there was this same Muslim ticket in 1993.
Did
with,
what?
Kingibe and Moshood Abiola.
Yeah, it was a ticket, but what happened? So I'm talking about outcomes here. I'm not talking a process. As far as the outcome is concerned, because that process was stillborn. It wasn't allowed to, mature into producing a president and vice president. I'm not discounting it though. It's there, it's part of our history. And it happened then. But today, because of all that is happening within the polity, which you and I are aware of, which Nigerians are aware of, we must be able to do things that assures even the most micro minority among us that look, you give him a sense of belonging, that he has something in this basket, that his interest is represented. And that's the feeling that's been expressed by the Christians. Now, after Shehu Shagari, 1999, we had Olusegun Obasanjo and Atiku Abubakar as the vice president. Then, subsequent to that, we had Shehu Musa Yar'Adua and Jonathan. Even when Yar'Adua died and Jonathan took the office, Jonathan brought in Namadi Sambo, who is a northern Muslim. So it's been established from as far as successfully holding elections and having presidents and vice presidents are concerned, from 1960 to date, there is a precedence. In Ghana, the population of Muslims in Ghana is about 19%. But each time there's a presidential candidate that is a Christian, they pick a Muslim as the vice presidential candidate. Why? It's not as if they may not necessarily win election if they have a Christian ticket, although the last time Mahama picked a Christian and lost.
Yeah, John Mahama, the former president himself.
It has been ingrained more or less within their psyche and even DNA, if you want to go that far, that it's not fair.
That's for national cohesion.
For national cohesion, for engendering this sense of belonging. Let everybody feel that he's part of it.
No, so, but if it's the same thing that you're talking about, then endorsing Atiku Abubakar, doesn't it counter the other narrative too, that why should a northerner, having been in power for 8 years, succeed another northerner? Won't it defeat that purpose? Because we have the issues of ethnicity and religion to balance. Aren't you afraid that a northerner succeeding President Muhammadu Buhari, like you have endorsed Atiku Abubakar, will also make a mess of the federal character principle, which is almost akin to the same religious foothold that you're trying to put forward?
That is not conclusive in itself, i.e., that's the beauty of democracy. That's the business of PDP. There are other tickets where you have southerners. So Nigerians, if what you're saying is the feeling of Nigerians, they are free to express themselves and say, a northerner has been president for 8 years, so we're not going to vote for a northerner, we're going to vote for a southerner. And we have southerners that on top of several tickets that they can vote for. So this is decisions that political parties make. They know what's happening within they know the idiosyncrasies of the thinking and the sentiments of the people.
Yes, especially having a ticket that can win election.
Yeah,
it's not a political party is out there to win elections.
So just like, for instance, without conceding that is right, even the Muslim ticket, as far as the mechanics of that ticket are concerned, those that couple it together are concerned, to their minds, perhaps, maybe they think that's the best case that they can put forward for them to win the elections. And they're entitled to their opinion. And therefore, you have a Muslim ticket. You have the PDP ticket, where you have Atiku Abubakar, a former vice president, that is on the ticket, as the presidential candidate, with Okowa as the vice presidential candidate. You have others. So Nigerians make the choice.
Yeah, and let's talk about the criteria used in rating this candidate. I mean, I saw your statement where you said Atiku Abubakar scored 15, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso scored 10 points, Peter Obi and Bola Tinubu all jointly scored 99 points. How did you arrive at that? And what were the specifics
if
used?
you read the report, there are certain criteria that were used. These are criteria of the crafters of the document, the technical committee that you alluded to, which was set up, a very senior, well-informed, politicians and technocrats, not only politicians. And the reason why maybe you're asking this question is because why should somebody like Bola Tinubu score that low?
Yeah, I mean, jointly with Peter Obi. Some people want to question, isn't it almost going to make you run into trouble? Like the same Ango Abdullahi committee that sat down to think of getting a consensus candidate for the North in the PDP, and they jointly rated some people who you wouldn't think that they will be on the same pedestal,
No, they're not the same.
Together. Won't you run into trouble with that kind of...
No, you see, for the purpose of those criteria that were used, you see, the reason why the Northern Leaders Consultative Forum did not just come out and say, based on our opinion, based on our sentiments, we think this is the best ticket. The reason why they put up a committee, and the committee came up with specific, listed specific items in terms of criteria.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to just come in there. I would want our viewers to actually listen to some of those criteria, because you listed them out. One of them that you talked about, this selecting the candidates based on the endorsement that you considered. You said that the person must have presidential experience, requisite track record in public service, business and education, evidence of national penetration, religious and ethnic balance, pan-Nigeria and tolerance, reasonable popularity, physical fitness for the rigors of state, as well as the existing structures of the selected political parties and current candidates for 2023 according to INEC records. So these are all the things that technical committee considered and brought out those points that Atiku scored 15 points, Kwankwanso 10, Bola Tinubu 9, and Peter Obi 9.
Let me take you through some of these things. For the purpose of the presidential experience, of all of them, it is only Atiku Abubakar who has experience at the presidential level, who has worked, in the position of a president, former president, or a vice president. So he already has a bird's eye view of, the nature of the job. So on that basis, he was the only one that got a tick. All of them don't have
Some
it.
will argue with you that Atiku doesn't have a proper executive experience because he was only, like in the word we use for vice presidents of deputy governors, he was only a spare tire, that he never really called the shot. In fact, some people have gone ahead to even say that unlike Vice President Yemi Oshibanjo, who was acting president several times, that Atiku never had that shot. So he was also elected as governor, but he never sat on the seat of governor for 1 year. So he doesn't have executive experience as you would expect.
I will tell you, you see, the test of the pudding is in the eating. It is not by what the title you hold, whether it's acting president or whether vice president. It is in the responsibilities of that office that you have been able to discharge. Constitutionally, the vice president is the chairman of the National Economic Council. So for the purposes of everything that happens within the economy and agglomerating every aspect, every part of this country in terms of the governance and so on, putting them together in the Economic Council and always coming up with policies and programs that would ensure that our country is on the path of steady progress and so on. It is the vice president that has chaired it, and Atiku chaired it for 8 years. You understand what I'm saying? Atiku, especially the first 4 years of the Obasanjo administration, a lot of Nigerians would tell you that Atiku was more or less the president because the president then had delegated to him tremendously a lot of work, and Atiku has proved himself to be a competent administrator.
Yeah, I mean, not to say I'm supporting your candidate, but to add that some of your party members and, of course, some leaders in your group that I've had conversations with have also told me that, remember, in 1999, Obasanjo was busy traveling around the world, and Atiku was in charge in his absence. But I asked them, did Obasanjo transfer powers legally to the National Assembly for Atiku Abubakar to be acting president? The answer is no.
Yeah, but that's not the substance, that's just the form. Whether whatever title you're holding, like I said, The taste of the pudding is in the eating, is on the work that you do, not on the title. You know, I'm not Dogara, for instance. I'm here talking to you. I'm just a member of the forum. Dogara is the chairman. But because I know everything that had happened, you called me. You would as well call Dogara because he's the chairman. As far as the title is concerned, maybe some of the things I know because I worked in several committees of this. I know details that even Dogara himself may not know. It doesn't really matter what the title is, you know, for as far as this is concerned. For instance, you know, Oshibanjo is vice president. You cannot discount what Oshibanjo has done in this country, whether as acting president or as vice president. These are executive. A vice president is a president.
President in waiting.
No. A vice president, as far as the constitution is concerned, is a president. You know what I'm saying? If anything happens, he assumes that office from that day.
Yeah, but that's why there's a clause that if anything happens.
Yes, and in the course, the point is, a vice president discharges presidential functions. A vice president is not a minister. So every day he goes to the office, every work he does are presidential functions that he either does constitutionally or assigned to him by his boss.
So by this experience, you think Atiku stands higher than all the other presidential candidates?
Of course, he has been vice president and he has proven himself to be a very competent technocrat.
So how did you arrive at Rabi Musa Kwankwaso scoring 10 out of this other?
There are many. You see, for instance, talking about issues of physical fitness and so on and so forth. Somebody like Musa Kwankwaso is in the mid early 60s, so to speak. So he's physically fit. Obi will score. You know what I'm saying? And so on. Some people may not score. If you understand what I mean. So these are some of the issues. In terms of, you know, subnational, you know, leadership at subnational level, you have to give it to Rabi Musa Kwankwaso because he's been governor. You have to give it to Peter Obi because he's been governor. You know, you have to give it to Bola Tinubu because he's been a governor. So everybody has his own areas of strength. Talking about structures of the party, which is one of the important issues. As we speak, of the 4 political parties that were considered, in terms of structures in governance, as we speak, it's only PDP and APC that have governors in office and members of the National Assembly and State House, dominantly, these 2 political parties. NNPP, I think they have just 1 senator. LP, they have just 1 senator. So in terms of existing structures, in terms of position in governance, these 2 parties, so you have to tick Bola Tinubu, you have to tick Atiku Abubakar, or PDP as the case may be. On those guys, it's an XX. Then coming to fielding of candidates, in terms of these parties fielding candidates for the purpose of 2023 elections, how many governorship offices have you fielded? PDP and APC, all the 28 governors that are up for election that have fielded. Even on that note, even NNPP did. But Labour Party fell short of fielding all of the governorship seats that are vacant. It gets worse when you go further down. In terms of senatorial, House of Representatives, House of Assembly, the party that performed worse in terms of fielding candidates is the Labour Party. And that's why in our comment you see where we said, without conceding, even if LP were to win the presidency, it will be very difficult for them to have a harmonious
form a minority government.
And it was very
surprised when you made that assertion.
It was a very deep analysis that was made. You don't want a situation. Look at Balabe Musa, if you remember,
of the PRP
in 1979 to 83. He was impeached because he didn't have majority in the State House Assembly. So, if for argument's sake, for any miracle happens, which we don't see it happening, you know.
Well, some people would doubt you.
Well, that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it, I think. So, if LP wins the presidency, they can't govern. It's going to be a very cantankerous government because you have other major political parties dominant in the National Assembly.
So, the National Assembly may be a distraction to the executive under such circumstances.
Yes, in those circumstances. And therefore, if a party cannot even field candidates for all the Senate seats and all the House of Representative seats, then Nigerians should question, are they even ready for governance? It's not, forget about the hype about, we like this guy. You know, a lot of youth and so on are saying that, okay, we like this guy. You know, some say we like his message. Some say no, but his message is quite distorted. He's not, you know, they're not factual. If you take it through some verification process, that's not what it is. Be that as it may, the fact is, some people love him, and they're going that direction. But as far as this election is concerned, and as far as what we are doing here, as members of this forum are concerned, we have looked at all the criteria, and we believe the best ticket, the ticket with the best chance of forming government, winning the presidential election, and the ticket with the best chance of, and the candidate with the best experience to be able to kickstart the work of governance from day one is Atiku Abubakar.
Without waiting for 6 months.
Without waiting for 6 months thinking of his cabinet.
Okay, I'll just ask you to hold on while we go on this short break. And when we come back, we'll talk about that aspect that you talked about too. Physical fitness for the rigors of state function as president or vice president. And of course, we also listen to Yakubu Dogara and others who were at that meeting where this decision was taken. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching This Week, and I'm Somna Sambo. And of course, we've been discussing the decisions of the Northern Leaders Consultative Forum, a group that's chaired by former Speaker Yakubu Dogara. That's a group of leaders within the North who think that Atiku Abubakar will fit the bill as the next president of Nigeria. They're endorsing him and asking that he be given an opportunity to get back to the presidency. Well, this is coming amidst others who were also profiled within the group. We had the likes of Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso scoring 10 points, Bola Tinubu scoring 9 points, and Peter Obi scoring 9 points, while Atiku Abubakar, who they say is their preferred candidate, now scoring 15 points after the analysis of several criteria before arriving at the PDP presidential candidate. Well, let's take a listen at Yakubu Dogara and others while reeling out some of those things.
Looking at Nigeria, I'm looking at unity. I'm looking at a government that can pass as, legitimate to virtually every Nigerian. I said, if the question was the same faith ticket involving a Christian ticket, I might even do more in opposing that ticket, because I believe that it doesn't tally with my vision of a greater Nigeria. So if we are opposed to it, it's not that we are not Muslims or we hate Islam. No, that's not the question. It is because we want everybody in Nigeria to have a collective sense of belonging.
It is not about politics, it's about all of us. It is about the future of our children, the future of our grandchildren, the future of our great-grandchildren, and the future of our people, that we must understand that as Nigerians, we are one. Our faith is our personal problem.
Mukhtar Shagari, former Deputy Governor of Sokoto State, there alongside former Speaker Yakubu Dogara. Let me come back to you now, Honorable Hon Kumalia, who is still here with us. You're transferring your decision from the APC's candidate, for example, because that's what a lot of people are saying, that some of you are aggrieved with the APC's Muslim ticket. You're transferring the same thing from one Muslim to another Muslim. Isn't that going to be a problem? And do you foresee the Arewa Consultative Forum, the Northern Elders Forum, joining you in this cause to want to back Atiku Abubakar? What if they don't?
Well, it's a free world. And we did what we did because we believe in what we did. You see, what we did is about fairness, is about justice. It's about giving a very important segment of society, citizens of this country, a sense of belonging. Everybody has a right to decide how he sees it, how he wants to, work with it. So if it's Arewa Constitutive Forum or whatever, it's not a pan-northern thing. No, and that's a very important distinction. We're not doing this to promote it on behalf of the North or a pan-northern affair. What we are doing is we're promoting the interests of justice. I'm a Muslim, and it is reported that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and in one of the revelations, Allah said He would protect a leader that is a pagan, but that is just, and look the other way, even if that leader that is not just were a Muslim. So your religion is your personal problem, what you believe in, what you worship, and who you worship. But for the purpose, as far as leadership of people, giving you what in Hausa they call amana, trust of the people in your hand, what is important to God is how just are you?
Yeah, and that's why I still repeated this question earlier on, that look, isn't it also fair in the spirit of justice and fairness for you to say that power should rotate from north to south? Since a northerner has done 7.5 years and going to 8 years, isn't it part of that justice, at least the community of things that you're considering as justice and fairness, for the power to rotate? Why now go to someone who is a northerner taking over from the northerner, where you don't want to support one Muslim and you're removing that power from that Muslim, in quote, Bola Tinubu here, and taking it to another person?
No, we're talking of the ticket.
Atiku Abubakar.
We're talking of the ticket. You see, we considered the 4 parties.
Yes.
And we rated them. We even considered party like LP, Labour Party, where the top of the ticket is a Christian. So we're talking of the ticket. The ticket, whichever of the tickets, in our opinion, should have a Muslim and a Christian. If the top is a Christian, the bottom should be a Muslim, and vice versa. This is what we are talking about.
So that's all you were out
for?
That's all we were out for. One and second.
That's what we did. The discussion about who is not ours, it's about Nigerians. Let Nigerians decide who they want after Buhari. If Nigerians feel Buhari was a northerner, a Muslim, after 8 years they want a Christian southerner, for example, please be my guest.
Oh, okay, very quickly before we round off this conversation now, let's talk about the last part which you considered, the issue of physical fitness and being prepared for the rigors of office of the president. You asked the technical committee to take a look at this. What was the outcome or findings like?
Well, I think it's very important. Everywhere in the world, especially the developed world, one of the major criteria, before you even throw your hat in the ring, one of the major criteria that is looked at is, are you fit for the job? Are you physically fit? It's not even about age, so to speak here. It's about, your health, your physical fitness, your mental fitness, and so on and so forth. And I think it's a very important criteria. Some of these criteria that you see being, featuring in our research, it was done after a very thorough analysis and looking at, globally, what are the best standards and what are the best practices when you want to look at a candidate for the office of president. These are some of the things that were considered. So both local and global issues were considered, and these were some of the criteria that were used. So physical fitness, yes. And therefore, to us, it is very important. We don't want a situation whereby, as you could see in our report, a situation whereby you have a president that is sick, either physically or mentally, and then you have some unelected people running the government in the shadows. You remember what happened when Yar'Adua was sick? Yar'Adua was out of the country. We didn't know what he was, whether he was in Saudi Arabia or Germany. May his soul rest in peace. He would have been one of the best presidents Nigeria could have had, assuming he was able to live out, the 8 years and so on and so forth. However, decisions were being made. Appropriation bills were being signed, and Nigerians were asking, did you take this into him to sign? Did you talk to him? Okay, if he is alert enough to read the budget and sign, take a picture and send us. Take a video.
But some will argue with you that Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu are within that age of gerontocracy. That these are two gerontocrats.
I'm not talking about age here. You can see Atiku Abubakar.
Are you medical doctors for you to have reached that conclusion? If you're not talking about age here, very quickly.
Come to think about it, Nigerians are not blind. They see Atiku Abubakar every day on the campaign trail, at meetings and so on. I'm sure you have a town hall or something that you're doing tomorrow.
Yes.
Arise.
Yes.
Atiku Abubakar has confirmed his attendance. If I may, I don't know if I can ask the question, is Bola Tinubu coming? Because Nigerians need to know. Has Bola Tinubu confirmed if he's coming?
We are still waiting.
You're still waiting for confirmation. Tomorrow, less than 24 hours of time. These are the issues we're talking about. We see all that is happening in the campaign trail. So, to cut the long story short, We think whoever you are, and you want to be president of this country, we want you to be physically fit. And it's one of the criteria we used. And there was a tick for Atiku Abubakar, obviously. A tick for
Rabi Musa Kwankwaso,
and a tick
for Peter Obi.
We are not sure about, like you said, we are not doctors, but from what we see, we are concerned about Bola Tinubu's physical and mental fitness.
All right.
And therefore, he couldn't get a tick on that ground. But he got many ticks in other areas.
Some people, especially those in the governing All Progressive Congress, will disagree with you.
They have every right to disagree with me.
Well,
it's a free one.
We must end it there. I just want to quote one thing that your report mentioned, that what will destroy Nigeria is not ethnicity, but religion. And I felt it was very, very strong. And that's why I had to take questions based on the religious perspective more. But we must thank you so much. Honorable Hon Kumalia is a former minority leader in the House of Representatives and, of course, a very powerful member of the Northern Leaders Consultative Forum, chaired by Yakubu Dogara, former Speaker of the House of Representatives. We must thank you so much for being on our program.